Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio, the show about ways to stay competitive in a changing market, break through business plateaus, and respond to the changing expectations of today's customers. Your host, Jess Dewell, is a rapid growth entrepreneur, consultant, and business advocate with a 20-year track record of business excellence. She candidly discusses how to achieve your growth strategy and realize your company's unfulfilled potential. Now, here's Jess.
You are in the right place for conversations about current needs that we as business leaders face today. Today, we are dealing with things like quickly changing customer expectations, technology change that happens so fast. Right when we think we've got something, we're already feeling several steps behind, as well as just understanding how fast the landscape of business can change, external factors that impact us in our community, in our nation, and in our world, as well as the choices that we are making. All are a part of having leadership and being an effective leader. Both of those things go hand in hand. This is all about what it takes to have short-term positioning for long-term success. You're listening to program 213, The Look and Feel of Success. Today, we have Nathalie Gregg, who is a change agent, organizational developer, adjunct professor, public speaker, and published writer, as well as TV personality. I should have put that one first. Also with us is Kathrine McGraw Patterson. She also is known as KP. She is a brand and business strategist with 20 years of expertise and knowledge in marketing and support for professional service firms. How lucky are we to have them with us today? I'm telling you, Voice of Bold Business audience, I wouldn't want it any other way. How are the two of you doing today? Good. I'm glad to have you both here.
Great, awesome, thanks.
And then we're going to just jump right in. How about this? All right, Nathalie, what does success for your company look like to you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say Happy Women's History Month to both of you. I look forward to making history with both of you. So now on to the question. This is what success looks like for me and my company, and is translated through my deepest fear. My deepest fear that one day little girls will grow up to become women who are afraid to ask. I am entrepreneur by design, but educator by trade. Growing up in small town USA, my mother insisted me women are to be seen and not heard. Is no more. No more will we be afraid to sit at the table. No more will we be afraid to raise our hand. And no more will we be afraid to negotiate our salaries. And as I become fearless, I will empower others to do the same. This is my biggest fear. That is how I answer success for me, success for my company, if I am doing things with amazing women around the globe, so we all can lead loudly, bold, confident, and fearless.
Thanks, Nathalie. All right, so Kathrine, I'm going to start calling you KP. KP.
That's fine. I entertain either.
Okay, very good. KP, what does success for your company look like to you?
Well, I'm a solopreneur, so really my success in my company is very tied up into my personal definition of success. And for me, it is a level of recognition and esteem for my community that I'm going for. I'm really connected to an emotional feeling of success. And as Nathalie said, it is grounded in my upbringing. And it's, I'm trying to fill some holes. We all have trauma, and I'm trying to fill my trauma holes by being recognized. And then secondarily to that is the financial success. But I have found that no matter how much money you make, if you're not emotionally where you want to be, it's never enough. The money is never enough. So I am looking for a position in my community, recognition in my community, esteem from my clients and from my business community that elevates me to the stage that I want to be at. So like I said, it's a very emotional feeling of success for me.
What I find fascinating about both of them. And you're also encouraging me to do a little reflection, as well as for the rest of our audience, because what I hear from both of you is that there was something that we are here to do that we didn't get when we were kids that allowed us to realize an underserved need or an underserved market, so that we can make the impact that we need to make for the others who may not have the resources, recognize that they had a similar situation or didn't have that situation, so they take something for granted. And I have to tell you, when it comes to success in general, it's automatically a downhill climb or a downhill run as soon as we take things for granted.
It's so true.
Is that your experience as well?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I work with other solopreneurs and micro businesses and small business owners, and I'm a very pragmatic person. And so what I find is that a lot of us are living in overwhelm, and we're living in the too much to do and the expanding to-do list. And what I encourage my clients to do is always to go back to that vision of success. What is it that you wanted to achieve, and what is it that you wanted to feel? Because if you're doing things that align with those goals, everything else seems to come much more easily. But that downhill slide that you mentioned, Jess, is like when you lose track of that, what you wanted to achieve or what you wanted to feel. That's when you start to get that downhill slide, and nothing is in alignment, and you're doing things every day, and it starts to feel like a slog because it's not directly tied to that feeling that you want to achieve. So I'm very big on that foundational piece of building your business and really connecting to what it is you want to feel in order to determine what you want to do.
Feel to do.
Feel to do.
I'm act to do. Act to plan. Actually, I'm act to plan is really what mine is. So we've got feel to do, act to plan. Nathalie, how do you sum that? I'm curious in yours. What do you lead with to get to the outcome?
I am a true Stephen Covey fan. I begin with the end in mind. And as I work with my clients, as well as my students, as also my mentees, I always ask them, what do you want the end result to be? And then how do we reverse engineer based upon where you are now? How do you want it to look? How do you want it to feel? How do you want to experience it? And so I guess that I'm somewhere in the middle based upon the person that I'm working with.
Well, there you go. I'm glad we have this spectrum here today, because it allows us to go, hey, so when we're listening to KP, when we're listening to Nathalie, when we're listening to Jess, you understand a little bit more about where we're coming from and what comes first out of our mouth to get to what comes next out of our mouth, to how we create ideas, to how we go after a goal. And that makes me curious. How do you, do you use an external formula when you're creating the goals for yourself? Well, let's leave companies out of this for a minute. For yourself, what are the key elements that you keep in mind and use when you're setting goals for success specifically?
For me personally, I decide, does it excite me? Is this something that I really, really want to do? Or is this something that's just going to be okay? And I really try to stay away from the okay things, go down the rabbit holes, and I get in trouble. So if it really excites me and it's really part of what I want to do as it refers to women's leadership, young professionals, and entrepreneurs, then we are all in. And I really have to stay focused on those three things. And does it bring me excitement and alignment? Because that's how I stay personally out of overwhelm.
So I'm a lot like Nathalie in that way in one of my businesses. So I actually have two businesses. I have my brand and business strategy business. I'm also the founder of Wevo Network, which is a women's entrepreneurship and business owners networking organization, professional development organization. In my business, I'm very focused on, these are the things I want to achieve. These are the things that I have set out as things that will give me that feeling of recognition and esteem that I'm looking for, and, the money as well. in the networking organization, it's been a very organic growth. I did not start it with any plan. I still don't have a plan for it. It's kind of doing its own thing. So I'm an interesting mix between being super strategic, like I have a 5-year strategic plan and I have quarterly goals and I have all of this stuff too. Oh, okay, well, maybe we'll add that into the organization and see how that goes. So I think I'm serving both sides of my brain in that one, my left side and my right side, because I'm being strategic and I'm being kind of creative and in the moment. And but definitely that alignment piece is so huge because, you know, feeling like you're on the right path and feeling like you're in alignment with those things that make you excited, like what Nathalie said, is so key to getting up every day and doing the hard work of entrepreneurship.
It's not easy. Maybe
It's not
exciting,
easy.
but it's not easy, is it?
No.
No.
No. No. I think we can all agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I know that they talk about that cash flow is one of the biggest issues that makes businesses fail. And I get that there's fear around money and there's all these other things, that this relationship that we have with our finances, both personally and professionally. And that if we just don't look at them, they're not there and it'll all be okay. Which when you're 1 or 2 or 3 people and none of you like that, that is a pretty big gap in a business. Yet I think there are other gaps in business. So I'm curious, from the way that you've set goals and the way that you do the plans, and that is exciting and aligns with your definition of success. Can you share, you know, a big blunder, a big oops, a big failure, a big challenge that you faced and had to learn how to overcome, which got you to the place today of what success really looks like for you now?
Go ahead, Nathalie. I'm going to wait and hear what you say.
I love how everyone throws the bus, but we'll take it. I was actually having this conversation with one of my advisors recently, the last couple of weeks, and we were talking about building a personal brand. And we were talking about actually what it look like, and we were talking more about mindset and about how do you basically hone into what is it that you want to do and how you want to do it. Because I remember when I was first starting out, he was saying to me, "Why are you using your name?" And I'm like, "That's my name and I'm using it." And he said, "Well, why don't you come up with a company name?" And interestingly enough, about 7 months later, he says to me, "I want you to help me do what you do." And I'm like, "Really? This is very interesting to me." And early on in building the brand, I was kind of leading to more of a network that I'd already built. But in order to take the brand to the next level, I realized that I had to build a larger network with people who had the same alignment, also the same interests, and all the same interests as far as collaboration, that I could longer rely on my existing network, because existing network only got me to a certain place. And if I really wanted to lead loudly all over the globe, I had to connect with women and also men all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's so funny. So my first blunder was I was what I call an accidental entrepreneur. And on Friday, I was working corporate, and on Monday I had a business, and there was no thought put into it. It was completely circumstantial, and it took me a really long time to get my feet under me. And I would say that probably as a woman and as somebody who didn't really have a plan is probably why I'm so into planning now. But boundaries for me were really important. I used to let my clients and my partners just dictate everything that I did. And it took me a long time, and, you know, getting into my 40s, before I really was like, oh, no, I'm not comfortable with that. So boundaries were probably a huge part of my holding me back from success early on. But I love what Nathalie said about the networking, because I hate to network. It's awful. And And I had to start doing it about 4 years ago, and I have gotten really good at it. And when I tell people that I hate it, they can't believe it because I seem like I know what I'm doing. But yeah, building that network is a real challenge, and doing it in a smart way and not just going out and making friends. So yeah, the networking thing for sure, getting that under you is really, really important.
Okay, we got to stick there for a minute. I just did a women's leadership roundtable. Both of you, when it came to this, I just did a women's leadership roundtable about, it was called the New Women Network, because what I find, and I wanted to hear other people's experiences, and it sounds like, KP and Nathalie, you're right in the same place that I am, is that I go to networking events to actually further an objective, because I have friends, I have a family, I have a lot of volunteer work, I have all of these things. I don't want to go make friends at a networking event. No offense, all you awesome people, you will become friendly with me. I would love to know about everything there is to know about you, but I don't want to be your friend just at this networking event. I want to know, will you do business with me? Will I do business with you? Do we know people that we can each of us do business with? And I struggle with that because a lot of the networking groups that I go to and a lot of the events that I go to, it's all about that friendship piece. It is not about actually stepping up and going, you're this really amazing person with this great product and this great idea. What can I do to help you? Or, wow, I need that myself. And so how do we get in the right mindset? Because I think a lot of us are lonely, whether we're on a larger team or we're in our own space. I mean, there are 5.5 of us at Red Direction, and none of us work together in the same space. And so being remote makes it a little challenging to have good collaborative, interactive conversations throughout a day. And so I can understand that other people in that boat might also feel that way, but come on, don't you? I mean, all I got is, come on. When we network, there's a purpose. And I think that if we don't network with a purpose, if we don't engage with a purpose, if we don't show up to every place that we go to with our definition of personal and professional success in mind, we're missing the boat. Now, I totally just went on a rant. So
no,
No.
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote this whole book on networking, so you're speaking my language.
Awesome.
For sure. And so with women in particular, we're so relationship based, which is our strength, but it can also be a real weakness when it comes to business. And I wholeheartedly agree. Like when I go to networking events, I have a reason for being there. These are the types of people that I want to connect with. This is what type of one-on-one I want to come out of this event. And I'm very much about, and you said something that really, really resonated with me, and that is I have friends, which doesn't mean that I don't need new friends, and it doesn't mean that we can't be work friends, but I would much rather be spending my time at lunch out with my best friends than having to go out and put on the face and be the person and tell this, like, I would much rather be with them in my yoga pants, right? And so if I'm going to go out and do it, I'm going to treat it like any other area of my business, and I'm going to have a reason, and I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to be intentional about the actions that I'm taking. So you're totally speaking my language.
KP, you're spot on. Showing up, and I think that those are two things that we need to embrace. Because I think for so long we have gone the friendship route, and that's great. But I'm like you, if I attend a networking event, then I'm there for a purpose. If I'm hanging out with my girlfriends, then I'm there for that purpose, to hang out with my girlfriends and to have fun. And I think we as women need to understand it's okay if we decide that we need to do this and do this for this particular purpose at this particular time. It doesn't necessarily have to be an integration.
Yeah. Do you guys find that when you network with women that you come home and they want to connect on Facebook? They want to be your friend on Facebook? And I'm like,
yes.
But I have a business page and I'm on LinkedIn, and we met through business, and I have kids and political views and all sorts of things that I don't necessarily want you to know about when I just met you for 20 minutes at a meeting. And I'm always astounded that that women want to connect as friends. And I carry a lot of masculine energy, and I understand that, and I operate in the world from a much more masculine standpoint. It's the way I was raised in business. And so I get that I'm not a typical woman, but I am just floored. I'm like, you're a business owner, like, be businessy. Come on, you can do it.
Absolutely. So many people ask me, what is LinkedIn and why are you on it? Why are you so excited about the LinkedIn platform? Well, are you using Facebook? Okay.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
But again, understanding your purpose, right? Like, if your clientele is on Facebook, if you're not a B2B, then absolutely go at it on Facebook, but don't friend every single person that you meet. Direct them to your business page. You should have a business page. Besides the fact that it's against Facebook's rules of engagement to use your private page as a business platform.
Sure.
So, it's all about, and it's that personal brand that Nathalie brought up earlier. What is your brand in the world? And are you a business owner who treats it seriously? Or are you, you want to be my best friend and hope that I buy from you?
You're listening to the voice of Bold Business Radio. In every program, we share stories, tips, and concepts that benefit short-term goals and increase confidence in long-term positioning. For additional perspectives on your growth strategy, Jess Dewell is your business advisor and consultant. Go to voiceofboldbusiness.com and click the Find Out More button to get started. Now, back to Jess.
You're listening to program 213, The Look and Feel of Success. And I'm talking with Nathalie Gregg, change agent, and Kathrine McGraw Patterson, brand and business strategist. And we're talking about what success looks like. And we have, just before this break, we started taking a tangent. We took a tangent into these things that actually get in our own way of success. And so they belong here. They were a perfect part of this conversation and very timely, because when it's easy to want to be liked so much that we forget our purpose of every action that we're taking. One of the things that I hear that both Nathalie and KP do is to plan and consider what their plan is before they just say yes. Even though it might be a quick yes, even though it might be a yes, there's automatically, and you'll figure out how to do it. You'll know when you practice taking a pause and then getting to saying, yes, this will further me toward my goals. The faster you get, the faster you get, the faster you get. And then it's like, of course I know what to say yes to. We'll figure out how to do it, not a problem. But we have to build a habit. We have to build a habit of a pause so that we have the chance to think and take purposeful action. And potentially even as important as that is thinking about the plan of action. I have to go to networking events. What am I going to do there? I've decided to speak. How am I going to make those contacts to actually get those speaking engagements? I want that next promotion. Here's what I need to know for other people to see that I know. So when I apply for that and I start talking about it and I start asking for it, there's alignment in somebody else's perception of me. And those are the types of things that go into success, that it's easy to talk about what we don't do, but when we incorporate these, it sets us apart. And so I'm curious, a story from each of you, or a memory, or just a quip of something about that. When we're thinking about the thinking, it tends to be underrated.
I'll let Nathalie go first this time.
Yeah.
I feel like I hijacked the conversation there for a minute because you got into one of my passion areas. So I'll sit back for a second, let Nathalie talk.
Awesome.
Well, I'll refer back to one of my conversations with one of my male counterparts, and we were having the discussion about networking and how women network and how men network. And I was saying to him, if your president gives you a new opportunity, the first thing you're going to do is pick up the phone, call all your male counterparts, and let them know what's going on and tell them how they can assist you. And he said, yes, absolutely. I said, it doesn't happen that way with women. And he was like, what? And I said, no, I said, the first thing a lot of women do will internalize, what is this? How am I going to get all of this done by myself with all the other responsibilities that I have to do? And I really feel like that if we're going to be successful and be the best that we can be, that we have to learn how to engage a team internally as well as externally. And I think that that's one of the things that we really need to focus on, as we grow and as we think, okay, this is something that I would like to accomplish, but who's going to help me accomplish this? KP, Jess, and everybody else in my network. How are we going to all do this together? And I am in the same boat as far as helping them, as far as the collaboration continues.
Absolutely. I feel like, just to build on what Nathalie said, like we all have our zone of genius, and women, we're socialized to take care of everybody else and to put ourselves last. And so we're the queens of multitasking, but we have a zone of genius, and then there's stuff that we're not so great at. And by keeping the control of everything, by not asking for help, we're actually limiting our own success, because I don't do math. And so if there's money involved or there's math involved in something and I try to do that, I'm not going to come out looking very good. But if I bring in the right resources and I can create a collaborative team of experts in what they do, and everybody's in their zone of genius, I come out looking amazing, because not only did I get it done, but I got it done in a way that shines a light on other people. And so I'm also then, I've that esteem again, right? I've built the esteem from my colleagues and from my team members, because I've made everybody look amazing, even my client or my boss or my president or whoever assigned me that task in the first place.
It's not easy to do it that way, though. It's easy to make friends. It's easy to go in and just be that wallflower and to be the socialite and to recognize, or in some cases, a connector, to be able to refer everybody that we know to each other. Yet somehow we always get frustrated when nothing comes back to us. And both of you underscored an incredibly good point. When it comes to success, it is reciprocal. It's not necessarily from me to Nathalie and Nathalie back to me. It could be from me to Nathalie, Nathalie to KP, KP to another person, and 10 other people before it comes back to me. But it always does. It's just very indirect. And so being open and filled with gratitude only gets us so far, because when we're expecting some sort of reciprocity. There's a law of reciprocity out there. And if we're not getting what we want, maybe we need to evaluate how we receive.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that I see is, and I am so guilty of this, is asking for people to engage with me in a way that means that they give me money. Because we are all in business. It doesn't matter how much it fulfills you emotionally. It doesn't matter how much passion you have for what you're doing. You are in business ultimately to make money. Now, it doesn't always have to be a lot of money, but it has to be some money. Otherwise, you've just got a hobby. And so I know for me, having that call to action, having those closing conversations are a real challenge. That's what I'm working on this year, is the sales conversations and how do you move people along. But you're right. I mean, we can go out there with an open heart and give and give and give and give, but until we ask, people don't think about, oh wait, she needs clients too, right? Because we look like we've got our, together, and we're just handing out value left and right. But if we don't stop and say, oh yeah, I have a program, or oh yeah, I'm taking clients, people aren't going to think that. People aren't smart. They don't make those leaps in judgment unless you tell them what you want them to do. And I want you to engage me and give me money. That's why I have a business. So you have to find ways to do that. You can't just assume that people will know that you're looking for that type of engagement.
There's a creative thinking piece that goes into this too, because in our roles, we all happen to be in a space where a lot falls on our shoulders. Ourselves being the core, also the team that we bring along, looking to us for the direction. And if we're somewhere in the middle where we're looking to somebody else for direction, it's something that KP said earlier is I figure out how to make everybody around me look good. That has direct impact. And so when I think of success, I think of what it feels like, what it looks like, and the experience of it, right? That's the look and the feel, but then there's the other piece of, can I measure it? Can I measure it in the happiness around me? And if I can measure it in the happiness around me, even though happiness isn't really quantifiable, do I see more engagement? Do I see less errors in the team? Do I see more collaboration versus everybody working in their own path, right? So there are things that I can see and measure. So a critical element of success for me is, how do we quantify it? Whether it's a direct measure or an indirect measure, and the length of time that we would like to see some sort of a result, and recognizing that maybe the result we think we're measuring isn't the one we actually will see get measured. And that's pretty abstract. And that's really difficult to do, because it's not A plus B equals C. It's always 2 plus 7 equals 4. That's something that I think about, is when I'm working with not only in my present retreats that I do every week, though, as I'm working with companies, is what are they not looking at, and how do we bring that into the picture so that success is whole.
I agree with you 100%, and I think about the whole piece around emotional intelligence, and the whole piece around leadership, looking at from a collaborative as well as a communicative part of view, and looking at those things and realizing, and I had to learn this early on in my career, that even though I'm focused on peak performance, humans still have to do the work. So I can't block out everything else. I must be grateful. I must show gratitude. I must give them grace. All those things is part of the project management process. And a big learning for me was to help understand other people and how they measure success and how they measure performance, and helping them understand what I wanted to see at the end, but me as a coach, as a leader, to help them get there as part of that process.
Mm-hmm. Oops. Well, I'll jump in while Nathalie gets back on. Even when I work with clients that have employees, I always recommend that they start at that vision point with each employee, because we are human and we are emotional creatures. And so understanding what your secretary wants to achieve in her job, she has goals and objectives and vision for herself in her job. And that's, I think, what Nathalie was saying about, what do they measure success as? And as a employer, manager, leader in your organization, that should be where every review and every discussion starts, is how are you doing on your goals? How are you feeling in your position? Is there any challenge that you're looking for? Because that's when the disengagement happens and the turnover happens, is when you're not really connecting everybody's corporate position to their own personal goals. And certainly as a business owner, connecting to your personal goals, there's no driver, because as I said at the beginning, money is not enough. Like, we've all had jobs where we were making amazing money and we were like, I don't want to go to work today, because they weren't connecting what we needed as that emotional creature to the outcome, which was the paycheck and what we were achieving in our job.
What would you like to add to that, Nathalie?
Oh, absolutely. I was having a conversation last night with a client, and she was very distraught about a new job. And I said, well, jobs are like relationships. And I said, sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs to get to the prince. This is just not a good fit. So what we need to do is go back to the drawing board and look for some other opportunities for you, create your 2-week notice, and let's get out and let's get back to living.
Isn't that interesting? I'm thinking about what both of you are saying. And it makes me think of how aware we might be in some moments and how unaware we are in other moments. And this concept of awareness is so necessary, whether it's to try things so we learn what we don't like, or to try things so we can find our innate strength. Maybe even try things to figure out, because they're on our bucket list. Somebody said that would be fun, so we decided it would be fun to try too, and let's just go do that. Like for me, I have no desire to go jump out of a plane. That is not on my bucket list. That is on a lot of people who I know's bucket list, and I'm like, more power to you. If I end up jumping out of a plane, that's all right, but that's not something I'm going to seek out to do. And so we all have those things, is where I'm going with this. And to be aware of what our thing is, to be aware of what you were just saying, Nathalie, about recognizing, and I might be extrapolating this, recognizing when it's time to cut loose. There are a couple of reasons to cut loose. We might not like it. More importantly, we may have achieved what we needed to achieve, and now it's time to let it go.
Absolutely.
How do we continue getting new skills if we're continuing to hold on to and feel identified with these old things, established things, mastered things? What do you think about that, lady?
Things that keep us stuck. Because a lot of times our past performance will not get us to our new performance. And I feel like sometimes a lot, and I'm guilty of this also, as women will say, oh, this worked this way last month or last year or the last couple of years, and not really lean into learning something different or learning something more. So that can help us catapult to what's next, as opposed to living in the past and continue to reflect. Reflection is great, but let's learn from it and get.
Yeah, I saw a quote today on one of the social media channels that don't mistake comfort for joy. So, something might have brought you joy at some point, and you sat in that, and you've sat in it so long that it's no longer joyful. It's just comfort. It's just your safe place. And so now you have to set a new challenge and a new thing to achieve to get that feeling of joy again. So
an outcome of the Voice of Bold Business Radio is that it's actually a sales funnel for my business. It's a sales funnel for Red Direction. Who would have thunk that? Not me when I started.
I knew.
Did you? Thanks for knowing for me, Katie. I did
Yes,
it because
absolutely.
It's an easy way. It's easy for me to talk, to create content. It's easy for me to pull information out of people that come on this show. I am so naturally curious that we have great shows, even if they totally go off topic from what the original goal, and they may not even match the title anymore. It doesn't matter because of how good the conversation was and what comes out of it. And you start getting these calls and you start getting these people on social media going, hey, this is so great. And I remember the first client that came through the radio show. To this day, so I was like, what? Look what just happened. And I was telling everybody, look what just happened. This is like really cool. And the relationship that has come from that is really neat. But the thing is, it's like what you were talking about earlier, KP, was sometimes we just do things to do things, and we kind of know they sort of line up with where we're going, but do they really? And so when we think about that, and when we're working with that, those accidental surprises, whether that's an accidental entrepreneur, whether that's a very intentional, move forward to develop whatever we have to develop, even let go of things, they're worth looking at. And I'm going to come back to awareness here. When you think about awareness, how do you recognize when you've been unaware? Let's start there. How do you recognize in what's happening around you that you're like, oh, I'm in this place again? Oh, wait, that just happened again? What are your cues that allow you to know that you're in that place of, I am really unaware of what my patterns and habits are?
For me, it's when my to-do list gets crazy and I've added in a lot of unnecessary things that I have gathered from somewhere in the ether and said, I must do these things. And they're not in alignment with what I'm really hoping to achieve. And so then I'm like stressed for no reason. And when I take a minute and when I catch myself doing that and I take a step back and I start taking things off of my list, and it shortens my list, but the things on my list, I love that Nathalie brought up Stephen Covey earlier. Like, they're my big rocks, right? They're the things that are going to give me the most traction in my business. And they may be way bigger tasks than the things that I took off my list, but I feel better about having those enormous things on my list than a million little things that aren't going to get me anywhere. So for me, it's that spinning out of control feeling, and my list is proliferating, and I'm like, oh wait, no, these are not important things that I'm adding onto this list.
Sometimes for me, it's that gut feeling of saying, I feel stuck. And why do I feel stuck? Why do I feel like that I am not performing as well as could be? You know, what's going on in my ears, but also what's going on in my calendar as well. And KP brought up a great point. For instance, this morning I said, well, I need to get up, make breakfast, do this, do that. And I was like, no, I don't have time to make breakfast. I need to pick up breakfast and continue on my to-do list. But making those conscious decisions of saying, no, this is not going to work right now, so I need to do this instead of that.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it liberating when you realize that and you're like, oh wait, this can wait. It can wait, or it's not important enough to do. And you're like,
yes, absolutely.
I agree.
I can't wait until it passes down from female generation to female generation how to do that, because we're all learning it, and we're going to be passing that down through what we model, what we share, what we teach, what we continue to learn, even if they're not to our own girls, to the girls that we do come across. Because maybe it's just me, but I have to tell you, all you men out there, and this is a big accolade to my husband, I'm like, how do you do that? How do you not care as much as you don't care? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a, please teach me how to do that way.
Yeah. Let it go, right? Just let it go.
Yes. And by the way, that's actually one of the things I am working on this year is to care less, not be careless, but to care less. To recognize my heart is in it, my head is in it, my gut is in it, and I've made a decision, and I will speak with as much tact as I can to be clear without beating around the bush, so that we can have the best conversations possible and really, really impact everybody. Really impact everybody. There are a couple of things that are still rolling around in my brain, but I'm going to turn it over to the two of you. Based off of our conversation so far, do you have questions for us or comments for us that haven't fit into the conversation yet, but we're going to make a place for them here?
Well, I would just want to, you said you get feedback from the people. So what, I have my community, but what is the community who tunes into your, into BBBR? Like what are their biggest concerns, do you find? What are the themes that you hear from small business owners that come up again and again?
Specifically related to success would be something like, I've been doing this thing and following this formula, but I'm not seeing the result I want. And then they're saying, and so then some of them say, and there's this story that's actually Colorado based, that if you had just stayed, this guy mined for a long time, couldn't make anything of it, sold his equipment. The guy who bought his equipment knew that it was valuable, and then hired somebody to go have somebody else look at the land of where this mine was, 3 feet to one direction, and he struck gold. And the family that struck gold is still that family that is wealthy to this day and prominent. I don't know their name. I can't source where I heard this story from, but I think it's cool. It's a Colorado story, so I'm using that one. That's one side. How do I know I don't have to move 3 feet to the left to get this success after being so tired and drained all of my resources, or waited a little too long and now I'm a little bit farther than behind the 8 ball? That 8 ball's right up in right here to look at. The other side is I just have so many problems. I don't understand why I'm not growing. I don't understand. So, and it comes down, and in this camp, there are typically a couple of buckets also of, we're looking at things like what I say and what I do don't align. That's actually the biggest thing across everybody that I work, everybody that comes in. What I say and what I do aren't in alignment, so my results, of course, aren't going to match, because whether it's self-sabotage, whether it's getting in your own way, whether it's measuring the wrong thing, those elephants in the room that nobody else can really or will really tell you about. Because they're going to figure out how do they stay in their lane and get their paycheck at some point. And that's where I come in. I'm like, hey, you do pay me. And nobody else is going to tell you this. There's toilet paper stuck on your shoe and we're going to fix that. So the people who are listening are interested in the self-awareness. They're interested in understanding to develop themselves, and they may not be ready to work with somebody yet. And they may change, and then they may at some point, but the resource here being here is what it's all about. And so how do we lead? Because leadership can sometimes be a lot of philosophy, and leading is all about results. And both of those things have, how do I want to say this? Both of those things have, people don't like them, right? They're a little charged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for asking. That was a long answer to
That was a long answer. Well, besides telling everybody that every entrepreneur should be in therapy, I will tell you what I always tell my clients, because I think that entrepreneurs fall into the comparison trap, and they compare their step 3 to somebody else's step 20. One thing that drives me crazy is I hear all these coaches and they're like, I need an online program. And I'm like, dude, nobody's listening to you. Nobody even knows who you are. Who's going to buy this online program? And so I always say there's no right answer. There's only the right answer for you and your business, because everybody's vision of success is completely different. So you can't borrow somebody else's success plan and expect it to work for you. You have a different client, you have a different product, you have different motivations. So really creating that awareness, it seems like this big ask to figure out what it is that you're doing. But once you do, it just really it's such a peaceful, exciting, energizing place to be, because you're no longer comparing yourself to somebody else or engaging in marketing or products or pricing that doesn't serve you, because you're so clear on what it is you're hoping to achieve that you can align everything in your business, your systems, your networking, your market, everything comes from that vision of success and what it is that it means to you uniquely, opposed to the next life coach or next accountant or next whoever is sitting at the table next to you at a networking event who has, the same job, because you're two completely different people. And so, everything that I do is from that place of awareness, because I just don't believe you can build a business if you don't have that awareness. And so it's worth the time to dig deep into whatever, it's a workbook or therapy or whatever it is that it takes for you to get to kind of that deeper emotional foundation of why you're doing what you're doing. Because you could always go get a job. It's a lot easier.
Well, and if you're in a job, it could also be a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. It could just be, so for some people it's easier to just work for somebody else because they don't have the thing that you need to do entrepreneurship. And that's okay. Not everybody has to be a business owner. You know, in the 20 years that I've been doing this, there've been plenty of times where I've gone and said, like, I just want to get a job for a little while. Let somebody else do the heavy lifting. So, you know, don't compare yourself or your success to somebody else's success, and don't borrow somebody else's vision for you, because it'll never work.
That is so true, KP. You really have to do the work, and most are so afraid of doing the work. They're looking so much to other people, what they're doing, why they're doing it. Oh, I need a blog. Oh, I need a sales phone. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. But do you really? Why do you need that? Do you know why you need it? And does this serve your customer? Does this align with the customer that you're looking to bring into your business? And how are you going to serve that person in that way? Absolutely. And taking a hard look at how do you serve, and how do you want to get that information out into the marketplace? It's digital, or whether it's one-on-one, what's that networking event, but how do you do that, and what's the most authentic? Because people can smell you being inauthentic a mile away, and it never works. Crash and burn.
We're going to take this line of conversation one step deeper. So what makes it bold? What makes it bold to get clear about the look and feel of success?
You become fearless.
Mm-hmm.
You become very intent about what you want, and you deliver it 100%, 110% of the. And that is so thrilling. That is so freeing. That brings you so much joy and excitement.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, when you walk into a networking event or you walk into a business event, you can see those people who have their shit together. Like, you can tell who in that room is so in alignment with their vision of success and what they need to do. And it's, you know, a lot of people are intimidated by people like that. It's that fearlessness, right? Like, you've got nothing on me. I know exactly who I am and what I need to do. And so it's a power, it's an aura of success that surrounds you when you are so certain about what it is that you want to achieve and how you're going to get there. Maybe not how you're going to get there, but how you're going to try to get there.
You will find all the program notes at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P213. That's voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 213. You may also search the site for the look and feel of success. You've listened, you've watched. Stay right here and rate this program. That's a little like, hey, now do this thing. Yes, please. Yes, please. Do this thing, because we want to shape what we share, how we share, who's on the show based off of the conversation that's happening, based off of the way you are able to use the information here on the program. And it's great to have KP and Nathalie here with me today, because it's through our conversations that you get to listen to and figure out how to take those nuggets from the problems, the challenges that you were grappling with, and apply them. Get practical. Skip the parts that we learned from and learn from what we've learned from, so that you can get more learning. You'll go farther, faster. And with that, we want to know from you, how do you describe the look and feel of success?
The Voice of Bold Business Radio gives you insights about how to achieve your company's growth strategy. When you aren't seeing the growth results you want, it's time to get an outside perspective. To discuss your specific situation around growth strategy, work with us. Visit voiceofboldbusiness.com and click Find Out More. Special thanks to the Scott Treatment for technical production. Thank you for joining us.